What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Arcadia. Though we are going to stray away from the disc itself, which is to say, I've been reacting to their So Red the Rose album, 1985. I've absolutely loved this album as I've gone through it. I do feel like it has a Duran Duran sound, but also, you know, maybe charting out its own little space. So I've really enjoyed it so far. I have 2 tracks to go, El Diablo and Lady Ice. But before we get there, Izzy has sent me the extended mix of Rose Arcana, so we're going to listen to that, and a couple people had commented, even Han Solo, someone who has commented more on my like Erasure and Yazoo and like early Depeche Mode reactions, because he's a fan of Vince Clarke and knows a lot about sort of his musical history. So, but yeah, even he was saying that he's a big fan of the extended mix of Rose Arcana. And shout out to Ron, made a comment about the name, which, you know, made me think it's again an example where I really appreciate the insight, because it made me realize like I was close, I was like right around the corner from maybe having a little more insight into the tune when I was speculating about the name, but I didn't quite make the connection. And the connection is the adjective arcane. It refers to like rarefied esoteric knowledge that is only accessible through extensive study and practice. And thus it becomes like this form of like elitist knowledge, this knowledge that is like so above and beyond what ordinary people in their ordinary lives would need to learn, never mind like have the time to learn and so on. So I was thinking that after Ron said that, that Arcana could be seen as this like place where perhaps, you know, this rarefied esoteric knowledge defines the landscape, you know, ideological, cultural, whatever. So I think that was an important insight just from a sort of, you know, semantic, like, root word sort of basis. So yeah, and given that the album is So Red the Rose and Rose Arcana, and I'm, you know, perhaps it's sort of giving shape or suggesting a sort of an atmosphere for the sonics of this tune. So yeah, whether or not Arcane in that sense specifically went into sort of the thought process behind naming this tune, that was a really cool insight, and it sort of made me think that, you know, Arcana, like I'm right on the edge, and I've talked in other videos about like, oh well, you know, the sort of information behind this is kind of arcane and whatever. So it's weird to me that I was thinking like, oh, you know, maybe it's a place name, but it sounds like a given name as well, so I'm not quite sure what to make of that. It's weird to me that I didn't sort of make that connection. So once again, shout out to Ron for sort of like bringing that to my attention and making me realize that, you know, there was perhaps a pathway to having more insight on the tune that I should have been attuned to. Nevertheless, we're going to listen to the extended mix. Once again, shout out to Izzy for sending it to me. So here we go. This is Arcadia with Rose Arcana, the extended mix. And it is quite a bit longer. The one on the album is like less than a minute. This is over 5. It's like unsettling, right? Dissonant, almost like arrhythmic, atonal. Atmospheric sounds, like you're on the edge of the shore. Tempestuous waves. Grand, but like austere. The way like a large desert might look. So many interesting layers here. adjacent to the rhythm. It's sort of evaporated now, but I'll say this, it's like, it feels like sonically arcane, like it's not simple and catchy, it's not like easily accessible. It's like we're in some like rarefied celestial music making dimension. Arcana, perhaps. Oh. Yeah, that's good. And that melodic layer, I thought it at the very beginning, but now I'm gonna say it. There's like a hint of like Far East sort of flavor to the that kind of main melodic line. Everything's sort of like wavy and like warped. There goes that light. It's like metallic birds like fluttering away like as you walk close to them. Definitely use this in an extra-dimensional cinematic sequence. My God. Melodic layer sort of like emerge from the depths of the track. And like more consonant and like sonorous than most of the rest, which is like again sort of otherworldly. Like there's always tension, like it's like a melodic progression, but there's like dissonant weight on it. Spellbound. Like I have no idea what to expect. That's crazy. Yeah, that's definitely more of an immersive experience. I mean, obviously, it's like 4 times as long, or 5 times as long. But beyond that, like it felt like there was more time to appreciate what they were trying to do with the track. As I said, it felt like there was like this constant state of tension where like, you know, it's like this interesting and like almost ethereal sounding piece that's, you know, it's not like normal sounds, it's not like normal music, but it was like challenging. It was like, you know, not, I think, readily catchy to the ear. I think it was more of, again, like an esoteric sort of sound that like you have to sort of come to kind of appreciate. And like I said, there were a couple moments where I liked, you know, there was maybe a consonant layer, like there was that, you know, sort of like Far East sort of melodic layer, but it's offset against these like banging percussive hits and like that sort of like wavy, warped kind of like key bass, I think. And then later there was that sort of like synth element that was a bit consonant and sort of like rising, but everything around it was still sort of like, you know, claustrophobic and sort of heavy. So yeah, I do like the contrast of the piece, like sonically. I'm intrigued, by any sort of instrumental of electronic music. So I like when people or when bands sort of like explore an abstract or sort of non-traditional sonic territory. So yeah, I really do enjoy that one, and it's interesting. Like, I wonder what did they. I think a couple people did say that they had basically the record. They couldn't. They didn't have enough space to have the full unpacking of the song the way they wanted, or this tune, I should say. It gets to a philosophical question, like if there's no singing in a piece of music, is it technically a song? Like sometimes people say that about like a techno tune. They make, oh, that song, whatever, and like sometimes it's not even a tune with a sample. Like maybe if it had like a sampled like sung vocal, it's like, all right, I still wouldn't call it a song myself, but But again, it just begs the question, like semantically, if there is no singing, in fact, is it a song or is it a tune, a piece, a track? That's a question for another day, or put your answer below. Either way, I really do enjoy that, and it is a shame that they couldn't get the full thing on the album, because I think that would, even more than I'm already feeling it, drive home the artistic and perhaps slightly more experimental nature of this album relative to maybe some of the other Duran like proper that was coming out in the middle of the 80s. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. I know a couple of you mentioned in advance that you really do like that extended version, but yeah, let me know what you think of that overall, and let me know. I've heard from a few people that the last two tunes are just excellent, El Diablo and Lady Ice, so I'm very much looking forward to those. But if you have anything to mention, do shout it out. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I will see you next time.